Wood's never been more expensive. I don't really know how to woodwork, and we're moving. So I figure, what better time than right now to figure out if making your own bed from scratch is really worth it. What's up, everybody? My name is Zach Trapper and we moved recently, so I decided it'd be a fun thing to make a new bed. Now, I didn't make this from scratch in terms of learning how to make a mattress, upholstering it, growing a tree, chopping the tree down, milling the tree, etc. It's about as from scratch as Home Depot can provide. Primarily since lumber is so expensive right now, and everyone has heard about its Dogecoin-esque rise to all-time highs due to supply shortages and wildfires and everything else that's been going on in the lumber world, I want to know, since this bed is entirely made out of wood, whether or not it was worth it. And during COVID, like I think everyone else out there, I got really into watching home improvement videos on YouTube, including this guy, Mike Montgomery. He also goes by Modern Builds, and he built this bed entirely out of plywood, so I was pretty inspired by those little built-in end tables there and wanted to do it for myself. I had to tweak it a little bit because I think he made it for a full or a queen, and I had to put it a little bit further to the ground and actually just on the ground because I didn't want to put legs on this thing yet. I think I'm gonna in the future, but for right now, it's legless. But this is what I'm going off of, and I'll link his video down below so you can check that out if you want to see the inspiration. Right now, we're just gonna jump into the video. I'm gonna show you how I constructed the bed, where I spent the money, and in the end, I'll do a little wrap up on what the total amount spent was, and I'll also give you a final comparison between building your own bed and buying your own bed. Oh yeah, and before we go any further, please make sure to hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. It would really help this video and channel out with the YouTube algorithm, which would just be the best darn thing. All right, let's get into it. Now, as we get started here, I want to make something abundantly clear if it's not already. Just like I am not a financial advisor, I am also not a professional woodworker. This is effectively my first real woodworking project, so I'm going to make a lot of mistakes along the way and use only the most basic tools like a drill, circular saw, jigsaw, and sander. This table saw here, it's not mine. It's my dad's. He just bought it, and he hasn't used it yet, so I didn't want to be the first one to break it in. I was also using it to weigh down the plywood because it was a little bowed. Since this plywood cost me about 68 bucks a sheet, I really didn't want to mess up. So I started by ripping down the posts that will support the headboard. They'll be hidden behind it too, so no one will ever see them. So if I really jank it up, it'll be okay. Next, I ripped down the side panels of the bed with those built-in end tables. So I cut one side and then flipped it over and cut the other side just a little bit. Traced the radius with a paint can. And then we got out the jigsaw to cut this out. I definitely recommend going slow with the jigsaw because it's pretty easy to make mistakes. Dang it. Cut slow and then you can definitely do it. Then you just got to repeat the process for the other side. Cut it out with the jigsaw again, do a little bit better job this time, and you're done with the side panels. I had to do a lot of these long, straight cuts for the foot and head of the bed, as well as all the panels that go down the sides of the bed as its current form of legs. This is where the table saw would have been super clutch, but instead I just had the circular saw, so not everything was perfect, but with the sander and a little bit of love, they worked out. The last major thing that needed to be cut were these little straps that are going to make up the cage for the headboard, and of course the headboard itself. At this point in the day, I was feeling pretty good. I'd cut pretty much every major thing that needed to be cut, and I put about 6 to 7 hours of work in. I assume a good woodworker probably makes 25 to 30 bucks an hour. Since I am not that, I'm just going to add in $10 an hour for opportunity cost. Next, I had to cut some half-lap joints into these headboard supports so that they would, well, support the headboard. This took a ton of time and effort with the jigsaw, and there's probably a faster and better way to do it, but if everything goes according to plan, you should end up with 3 things that look a lot like this. Great job. For this project, I'm using pocket holes for pretty much everything. I'm attaching the sides of the bed to the top of the bed with pocket holes, I'm attaching all parts of the headboard with pocket holes, and I'm going to assemble the bed in the end with pocket holes. I bought this tiny one at a time pocket hole jig by Craig because it was the cheapest one there. If I could go back, I would definitely have splurged for the more expensive version with 2 pocket holes and the built-in clamp. That would have made this process a whole lot easier than it was with this little jig that I had there. For some reason, I didn't get any footage of this, but you can see right here that you also need to put the half laps on the back of the bed frame where the headboard is going to go. Then you can secure your little spiky boys with some pocket holes. And your final product with the strapping should look a lot like this. This was another stressful part of the build because I wanted to make sure that the headboard was evenly spaced on the supports as well as level with everything else. After lots of double checking, I drilled the headboard in place using pocket hole screws since that was all I had. The last thing that I did in the garage, other than putting finish on the pieces, was make sure that the long sides had one of these 1x2s to give me something to screw the strapping of the bed into. Then we brought everything over to the new apartment and laid it out the way I expected to put it together. The wood in the center of the bed is the strapping, as well as 2 supports that I'm going to put down the length of the bed to make it extra strong. I don't have any footage of me actually putting the bed together and screwing it in place because I was absolutely stressing. It was really hard to keep everything square and level all at the same time, so unfortunately didn't get it on camera. But at this point, all I had left to do was screw the strapping into place, so that's what I'm doing here. I was able to salvage some of the wood for the strapping from the garage, but I did have to go to Home Depot about 3 or 4 times throughout the process of building this bed, not only to buy more wood, but also just other things that I forgot in the meantime. After about 20 hours of work and 4 Home Depot trips at a minimum, the bed was done. All things considered, I am very happy with the way this bed turned out. It's super sturdy, super comfortable, and I think it looks pretty good too. Now, as promised, I want to break down how much I spent on the bed and whether or not I think it's worth it to make your own bed versus just going out and buying one. First thing, on just the materials, so the wood and the screws to put the bed together, I spent $289.13. That includes 2 sheets of 3/4 inch radiata pine plywood, 4x8, as well as the 1x2s that run the length of the bed, and the 1x3s that I put for the strapping across the bottom of the bed. The other thing that I want to throw into just the construction part of the bed frame itself is what you would have spent on tools if you didn't have them already. The drill that I used in this video costs about $120, but you can get cheaper ones online for about $60 if you don't have one already. For the circular saw, this one was really old, but you can get a new one online for about $90. For the jigsaw, you can find one for about $60, and the sander that I used was $69. The pocket hole jig costs about $20, but I definitely recommend springing a little more for a nicer one. I also want to include the $10 that I spent on the Diablo finishing blade for the circular saw to make nice smooth cuts, and $10 on the Diablo sanding pads that I put on the sander to make this thing smooth as heck. So if you had to buy all these tools outright, it would cost you $319. But the way that I'm gonna figure it is, since I'll use basically every single one of these tools again, I wanna divide that by 10. I'm assuming I'll do about 10 more woodworking projects using all these same tools. So dividing $319 by 10 brings my total tool cost to $31.90, which isn't bad, even though it does seem like a pretty large upfront investment. So all in all, my tool and material cost for the bed came to a total of $321.16. If you want to count my 14 amateur woodworking hours at $10 an hour, it'd be another $140, but I'm gonna leave those off for right now. With that total budget of about $320, I wanted to go now to Wayfair to see where I could find a comparable bed frame and how much it might cost. So I pulled up Wayfair here, and what I'm gonna do is type in king size bed frame, or just king bed frame, that's fine. It'll get what I'm saying. And at first you see a lot of metal ones, so you can buy a pretty cheap metal frame. It's not gonna look very good, but you can buy one for $129. So obviously you can do this for less than I did it. But if you come over into the wood section here, we'll see what we get. That's just metal with a little bit of wood. That looks pretty similar, no built-in end tables. Whoa, $636, okay. $345, $379 for just a box made out of wood. Wow, it seems kind of like if you want, I guess you could do this one. So $345, let's take a look. Is this at all similar? Yeah, it's pretty stripped down. It's not really a platform bed. It's more just a really simple bed frame. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, so really anywhere between $300 and $600 is what you can spend here. If you want to take the average of that, you can go with $450, which, you know, it's pretty comparable, about $150 more than I spent. So clearly you can get a bed frame for anywhere between $300 and $600. I would say I probably would have gone for a little bit nicer one than the $300 one, just because it seemed a little basic and stripped down. but I ended up making my bed, so I like this one the most anyways. Last thing, I also want to throw in what I spent on the mattress and sheets, and also what we sold our old bed for. So the king size mattress from Wayfarer, a 6-inch memory foam mattress, was $272.58. And the other things to go along with the bed, the sheets, the mattress cover, and of course the 3-inch memory foam topper, because gotta have that, was $290 total. That brings the grand total of the bed to $883.74. That's a lot of money. But luckily we were able to sell our old IKEA full bed on Facebook Marketplace for $150. So we brought our total spent on this bed to $733.74. In the end, for me, it was totally worth it. For you, it depends on whether or not you want to make something. Do you want to make your own bed? If so, yeah, it's probably going to be worth it. But if you don't, then you can definitely buy a cheaper one online. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button and share it with a friend. Or you can subscribe. I put out new videos every Monday and Friday. If you like this type of content, this how much is it worth? Should I make it? Should I buy it? Please let me know down in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. It would definitely help me to make better content for you going forward. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.